we're just going into winter here in Europe. So the boat is now all winter prepared. I've taken off all the wood, put in the antifreeze. So it's staying in the winter. It's staying in the water over the winter. But yeah, it's really a bit too cold now to sail unless you're a real enthusiast. But about a month ago, just before it started getting cold, I was able to get one more sail in. There was one day that was unconventionally warm. Basically, the wind came from Africa, and we had a 24-degree day. And I decided I'll take my day off work, and I'll make that my first ever long solo sail. When I say long, 3 or 4 hours. So not exactly an ocean crossing, but at least a real sail completely on my own. And it was a beautiful day. The wind was perfect, about 10 knots, so it's very good for a first single-handed sail. At least the first one that was longer than 15 minutes. And in that time I managed to get, 3 or 4 hours, I managed to get quite a bit done. I managed to try out a bunch of things I'd wanted to try. And I should have now enough material for, say, the next 3 or 4 posts to take us through the winter. The first thing I want to talk about is self-steering. And I wanted to try to do a bunch of things with the boat steering itself. I was hoping to rig up something, basically one of these sheet tiller type systems where you hook up a rope, and it basically the boat steers itself. You attach the rope to the sheet of the sail, and then through some pulleys to the tiller, and the boat can effectively steer itself. That was what I wanted to try, and I soon discovered that I didn't have any pulleys there, so that was off the cards. But what I did try is lashing the tiller. So if you recall, I had trouble raising the sails a few episodes ago. And that was mostly because the boat was sort of turning out of the wind. And some people suggested that I should try lashing the sail, or rather lashing the tiller. And I'd thought about that before, and I thought, well, that probably won't make a lot of difference because it's a long keel boat. But if you think about it even more, then it does extend the keel by quite a lot. So the effective keel, because if you've lashed the tiller, it's effectively part of the keel, holding the boat straight. So it does make it harder for it to turn. So I tried that. So first of all, imagine the boat going into the wind. We're trying here to raise the sail, the main sail. So the boat's motoring into the wind. So you've got a sail flapping. Now, the way I'd had it in the past, I just left the tiller to flap around, basically. Now, in general, it's not too bad in my boat because it's a long keel boat, so generally the tiller stays reasonably straight. But of course, if you fix the tiller, you're effectively making the keel a lot longer, in the sense that it sort of extends the back of the keel to make a much longer, straighter object in the water, and that, of course, with the motor pushing it forward, should keep it going straighter. So that's the theory, and so what I tried doing was just getting a bit of elastic and running it between the winch handles and just fixing the tiller in place like that. And then I walked up to the sail and raised the sail. And I have to say, it worked pretty well. At least for raising the sail, it really did seem to have a beneficial effect. For lowering the sail, I think it just took too long, and in the end I still ended up way off course. And with the boat into the wind, I just walk up to the front, up to the mast, and try to raise the sail. At this point I realised I'd made a mistake. I'd hooked on the reefing hook there while I was in the harbour, which I should not have done, but I did. So that was a minor blunder. And then I realised I made a second blunder, and that was a bigger one. That was that I didn't release the main sheet, which you always should do. And I didn't even undo the main sheet. Didn't make it loose. So yeah, a bunch of amateur mistakes there, but luckily there was not too much wind and I was able to get sailing. So once I started sailing, I just hooked up again the tiller to the elastic, and I was able to walk forward, and to finish off the job that I had to rush before, I was able to tighten up the mainsail and then turn off the engine. The last part of the equation to loosen the topping lift. So I actually had to make 3 different trips to the mast in all. Nice thing about the elastic is you can just very easily still move the tiller, steer it, just sliding it back and forward. Then there was a time for the headsail, just unroll the headsail, unfurl the headsail, pulling out the headsail sheet, and at the same time loosening the furling line. The other thing I tried was just lashing the tiller while I was sailing. So sailing along, see if the boat would be stable with just the tiller lashed, just fixed. Nothing dynamic happening, just statically fixed in place. And that was pretty successful. I was surprised how easy, on certain courses at least, that you could do that. The first thing I tried was actually the sheet to tiller system. Even though I didn't have pulleys, I thought I'd give it a shot. And it was a bit of a disaster, as you can see. It was just rock solid. There was no way that thing was going to turn anything. So yeah, with the sheet to tiller, you really need very little friction. So what I reverted to was just a simple piece of string, as you can see, or a rope, connected just on one side, connected on the weather side, the windward side. Because the boat tends to have some weather helm, you just need to have it on that one side, at least for the if you're close hauled. That worked really well for being close hauled with a full sail. On the way back, I had a reef in, and you can see that there is very little weather helm, and in this case it was very difficult to get the boat to stay straight. It would just change course quite a bit, and it seems like just having that little bit of weather helm really helps, and having the mainsail reefed means you don't have as much weather helm.